Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Answers Yes podcast. Appreciate your comments. Hey, if you heard our show the other day, it's one that I do with my partner. It's titled Under the Umbrella of Blood. If you haven't heard it, check it out. It's actually based on a poem, but the topics are great. We talk about how everybody has a story, and it's interesting. My next guest is an East Coaster. I just came back from New Jersey this last weekend. I was with my friend Rob Bailey. If you don't know him, he owns Flag Nor Fail. I've got my flag sweatshirt on right now. His wife, Dana Bailey, was the first Miss Olympia. But we did an event down in New Jersey in the Shoreline with people like The Muscle, Ryan Keaton, and all these great people. And I realized everybody had a story they were telling on stage. And then when we interacted with the guests, they all had a story. So, think about what your story is. And today I've got, my guest is Craig Siegel, who I found through David Meltzer. So Craig, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. I'm excited. There's a lot of alignment, a lot of synergy here. I'm excited to drop some nuggets for your audience. Let's get nuts. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. David is such a great individual, and he's brought so much to my life. And as I started listening to you and him talk, I guess it was about a month ago on a live stories on Instagram, like, I've got to have this guy on my show because of the things that you were talking about. And I realized as I dug into your Instagram, that's like a regular occurrence for you. I really kind of geeked out at the time. So I texted you like, hey, when you want to be on my show? So anyways, thank you for being here. What I want to ask you first is, I know you have a story, right? But what part of your story brought to where you're at today with your coaching group, with the things that you're doing now? Was there a pivotal moment?
Oh, yeah. The pivotal moment was the pandemic / lockdown. So for me, just to give your audience a little bit of context, I spent 13 years on Wall Street before the pandemic. And to the outside world, I was having, and I quote, success because I was making money and I had my own business and so forth. But I was suffocating. Yeah. I never actually said that out loud. That word just came to mind. I was dying a slow death. I got into a dark season a few years back after I got out of a toxic relationship. Simultaneously, my best friend, my dad, had gotten diagnosed with cancer. And even though I was making money, wasn't exactly putting a dent in the universe. And I was drinking more than I'd like to admit. I guess I was just trying to escape my reality. I didn't stay there long, though. And I love divine intervention. I don't know if I found running or running found me, but I started running a bunch of marathons, which was awesome. Wasn't looking to become a pro or anything like that. Just looking to find myself, do some hard things, create a point of reference, confidence, all that. And it worked. And then fast forward the pandemic. This was the pivotal moment for me. And I know really for the world, it was a global awakening, but it was also an historic opportunity.
Yeah.
It's for me personally, as you can imagine, being a business owner on Wall Street, it's go, go, go. It was the first time that I just got quiet and just took a second to reassess. And when you get mindful and when you get just really present, not anxious about the future, not depressed about the past, just in the moment. This is why if you read all the spiritual texts, they all talk about meditation and so forth. And so it came to me. I had been really miserable for quite some time. And I made myself available and I started getting these downloads on why I'm here, my assignment. And it's interesting. I think most people would agree that they're here for something more than they're currently doing. And in the pandemic, at that moment, that's when I had my spiritual awakening from studying personal development for so long. I had an exercise, basically assessed what I absolutely love, hit me like that, personal development. I've been studying it for 15 years, documenting it. Then I asked myself, what are my gifts? Humbly, I could communicate effectively. And was it scary? Because that's what everybody asked me. I had a stable job and so forth, no following, no connections. You said you geeked out on my Instagram. None of that existed. It was scary, brother. But it was significantly more scary to choose to go back and be miserable. That, to me, is associated with death. And so the cost of inaction was so high that I took my shot. I developed my CLS brand, Cultivate Lasting Symphony, or Plan My Initials, Craig Siegel, started putting out content. And I say very humbly, the brand exploded over the last 2 years, sold the business on Wall Street. And this is it for me in some capacity for the rest of my life. That's a long answer just to give your listeners some context. But the simple answer to your question is, when I got quiet and just paused for a second, I had realized that I was significantly underachieving and that I was here for something much, much, much bigger. And once I got quiet, I acknowledged that, I fulfilled my assignment, and I went all in, brother. And the rest is history.
So there's so many complex topics within what you just said, but all important because, my mind immediately goes to what your life must have looked like on Wall Street. I was the vice president of Kettle One Vodka for 10 years. I launched the brand in Manhattan. I've been on Wall Street. I've rang the bell. I've seen the hustle and bustle and the food, the wine, the women, the fun, all those things. And all of a sudden the world goes quiet on you. How did you create that quiet space, first of all? Because that stuff just doesn't go away immediately.
Well, if I'm being 100% vulnerable, honest, raw, and authentic with you, brother, it was created for me with the lockdown, right? Mm-hmm. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't have a set, organized schedule. I couldn't even work if I wanted to. I shut down my office. And when I looked around at the beginning of the pandemic / lockdown, I noticed a lot of Netflix and day drinking, specifically that Tiger show everybody was all into. And I just said, I'd never been forced to be this quiet for a second. I'm going to explore this. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I did, that's when I started to become a vibrational match for all these divine downloads. So it's interesting because the $1 billion question is like, would I have started CLS had it not been for that historic opportunity with the lockdown to kind of reassess? Not sure. And maybe I would have, but maybe not then. But ultimately, life will hand you opportunities like that. And there's always a choice to do nothing or to make excuses or to play victim or to seize that opportunity. And I'm very thankful to say that in the beginning of the lockdown, when the world kind of got quiet and shut down, I seized that opportunity to reassess.
Yeah. We are post-pandemic. And by the way, I feel for the people that suffered through what you did in Montana. We kind of chose not to participate in COVID. I mean, yeah, it came through town, but we didn't shut down. We still went to the rodeo every Friday night. But I do know, major cities where people were living the life that you just talked about, where you were forced to lock your doors and not show up. But now that we're in a post-pandemic, what do you tell people to say, hey, look, you need to get quiet for a minute and figure this out? Because I know there's so many people that went straight back to that grind and they're as unhappy now as they were before the pandemic.
Yeah, it's true. And also there's a lot of people that have taken that time to kind of reassess and realize what's valuable and what's important to them. And I'm really proud to see that. For those people, I would say, first of all, surround yourself with like-minded people that can help you, whether it's a mentor, a coach, a podcast, a book, a mastermind, whatever the case may be. And just understand that there's always a choice. For example, when I was stuck, and I put in quotations, for years, I wasn't actually stuck. I was just so invested in this movie, this story, if you will. This was it for me. I was a Wall Street guy. I never really find true love. And this was it. During the lockdown, it occurred to me, do I have a choice? Could I potentially choose a different story? If this is the movie of my life, could I change the cast of characters? Can I alter the plot? Can I change the next act? And then I started challenging my limiting beliefs. And that's why I created the reinvention formula. And so for anyone that's not happy or not fulfilled or their soul isn't lit, I would take some time to journal, to meditate, whatever it is for you, and start cultivating a list of things that you love, things that you're good at. What the pandemic taught me, brother, is that we don't know what tomorrow brings. And I refuse to waste any more time. And so people are always like, what are you on, Craig? I'm like, you don't get it. It took me 35 years to find myself. My soul is lit. Like this conversation to me, I'm grateful and I'm excited to be on your show and talk with you. This isn't work to me. And I believe that's available for everybody. You can absolutely create a hybrid of making an impact, having a lot of fun, and unapologetically making a lot of money doing so. And if you're not waking up every single day excited about life, I think that's feedback right there that it's time to reassess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an important message that oftentimes people just get caught in that grind. And by the way, just because COVID was such an international worldwide deal doesn't mean that those types of activities don't fall into your life in different forms. You might
Bro.
not be forced to close the door, but maybe you lose a job. Maybe you have a series of bad days where you realize, like what you just said, hey, I'm not living with intention and I've got limited beliefs. I love that term, by the way. Dave used it often with me. We brought up David Meltzer at the beginning of the show. I told David one time, I said, I want to raise $100,000 for this orphanage in Mexico. He goes, Jim, why would you limit it to $100,000? Why not? Why not $1 million? Why not any undetermined amount of money? I'm like,
Right.
thanks for the reminder, brother, because that's what's out there for us.
Yeah. The reality is we don't create abundance, we create limitations, because the abundance is our birthright. We just have to call it in. All the money, all the things, all the things that fill up your cup, it's all out there. The market already exists. The problem is we get jaded and dejected by life experiences, whether it's conditioning, our subconscious, our parents, the economy, society, social media. And then all of a sudden we start to look at the world with a totally different lens, a totally different distorted view. And it's like, I'm going to see my nephew a little bit later today for the holiday. He's almost 3 and he's so joyful and happy and just so much fun to be around. And the truth is he hasn't got beaten down by life yet, right? So he doesn't have a distorted outlook. He's just happy and excited. And I believe once we take a second to realize that's how we all were, and we can get back there. It's the interference, the negativity, the voice in your head, the limiting beliefs. The biggest virus going today, in my opinion, is unworthiness. If we could become aware of that, then we can create systems to block out that interference.
Yeah. There's a great book I bought for my girls. They're 7 and 9. It's called Through My Daughter's Eyes. And it's basically a parent seeing the world through her daughter's eyes, right? So I try to make a conscious effort when they do something for the first time to go back through that with them, because you're right. The limits have been impressed upon us, and it's whether or not we believe them or not, we become that person. And if we can dial back, like you said, you get to see this 3-year-old full of joy. We all have that,
Right.
How do you walk people through getting that back?
Just first of all, it's a great question, brother. Number one is awareness. Just the simple fact that we don't manifest what we want, we manifest what we are. So if you're not digging the feedback or the result that you're getting in your life, it's time to take radical accountability and ownership that you're giving off some sort of vibe. And it's good because then you're always in the driver's seat. You're not victim mentality, not blaming anybody else. It's very simple. You want to elevate your frequency so you can be on fire. You're a vibrational match for all the abundance out there. You're excited. You're optimistic. And it starts with our thoughts, which then translate to our beliefs. So just like being physically fit, like I train for marathons and I work out every day, I imagine you do fitness as well.
Yep.
And a lot of the high achievers do. Just like you want to stay physically fit, it's just more important to even be mentally fit, brother. And for me now, ironically enough, it's my career, it's my livelihood. But even if it wasn't, just sharpening the axe, I like to say, each and every single day, whether it's meditating, praying, listening to a podcast, reading a book, watching a YouTube video, something that just gets your mind right and sets the tone. And when you start to feed yourself positive thoughts, you start to create positive beliefs. So if you're in a low frequency, you stub your toe out of bed and then you're looking at the world, you're looking at all these problems, that's going to dictate the course of your day. But if you wake up and you're like that, okay, let's just take a second here. Why do I feel like this? Let me go back and eliminate the negative thoughts and replace them with more empowering ones. It's going to be a great day. That was a minor setback. I'm on fire. Everything is great. I'm grateful. Now, all of a sudden, you believe that. I'm not an imposter. I was successful here. Those skill sets are transferable. I could be successful here. Now that you're excited and emotionally invested, you change your behaviors and your habits. And then all of a sudden, you start getting new results. So anyone out there that's not in a great frequency or you're not getting the results you desire, start paying attention to your thoughts, subconsciously or consciously, and then you have a choice. You can start implementing more positive ones, and then you change your whole physiology, and then from there, it's game on.
Yeah, and it's infectious. Let's talk about the logistics for a second. You're during COVID, you made a shift. You know where you're heading. You sold your business, and you're young enough. It's not like you just want to throw all that money out the window. There's still that danger zone of I've got to go make money, right? And you went all in on this shift in your life. How hard was that to have confidence in the next step? Or did you build enough mental strength to know it doesn't matter what you do next, you were going to be good enough to sustain your living?
Yeah, and let me be 100% honest with you. Just because I made a lot of money doesn't mean I saved a lot, right?
Yeah.
I made some poor decisions, poor investments, and so forth. So, I'm used to a certain lifestyle, and when I reinvented myself in the pandemic, and I was shifting into a whole new industry, a whole new world with no experience, there was a moment where it got tight for a second. But this is what I did. I stopped worrying about monetizing and money. And I started focusing on the process and the journey. Marry the process, divorce the outcome, build the brand, build the community, extend my reach, put myself out there, do good. And when I doubled down on that, you don't have to worry about the how. All of a sudden, the community started to blow up. All of a sudden, Mark Cuban sponsoring our podcast. We're getting partnership deals, sponsorship, speaking all over the world. I was just with Dave in Portugal, just got a record book deal. So it's great to set the intentions, have a whiteboard, have a vision board. But what I've learned based upon my experience is fall in love with the process. You don't have to get a touchdown every single day, but how can I get a first down today? And for my non-football fans, how can you move the chains each and every single day? I believe you can't control a home run or a touchdown every single day, but you can absolutely control a first down or a base hit each and every single day. And then it compounds. And so, long answer short, brother, I had been successful in business. I had gone from not being able to run a mile to run 4 marathons my first year and run pretty good times. So I was able to tie my lack of experience doing this to confidence in past successes and then anchor those and understand not just me, but you, but anyone listening. It's not those things that made you successful. It's you. It's me. And those traits are transferable. And at the end of the day, I'm willing to bet on myself each and every single day.
I want you to talk for a second about that anchor because I think it's so important. By the way, if you didn't, he's being a little humble here. That's a 3:31 PR on the marathon. My PR, well, my only real marathon that didn't have anything to do with Spartan racing was 4:15 was my PR. But
it's good.
No, but when you talk about anchoring these successes, right? So when I turned 50, I was in the Spartan competitive race series, which is an obstacle course racing, right? 50 young. I went and raced the world championships in Iceland and I took third in the world. Now, it's not about that win for me. And it was hard. It was 48 miles in the dark, snowy, crazy weather. But it was about the anchor that it gave me for everything else that I've been doing. And I've had a lot of anchors along the way, and I've understood that process probably since I was 16. But can you explain that in your terms to those that don't understand how important those anchors can be? And I love that we both share that physical fitness side.
Same, brother. And when I first stumbled upon personal development, simultaneously when I got to Wall Street, one of the things, and I talk about this a lot in the upcoming book, that I was introduced to was NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. And one of the cool things that I discovered was the concept of anchoring, and essentially taking a blissful experience from the past and being able to anchor the feeling of that to the present. And I do that before I take stages. I do that for big moments in my life still to this day. And I love that fitness was a catalyst for you because it was for me as well. And when you're able to do hard things and really push yourself past limits that you thought you were capable of, all of a sudden it's not like, oh, I'm good in this sport. No, it's like, if I could do that, what else can I do? Or even better yet, what can't I do? And so if anyone's looking to get confidence in some area of life, I would absolutely suggest to start getting very intentional and organized and consistent with your workouts, because that starts to build confidence, because working out comes down to discipline, and those traits are transferable to business, to anything, right? So essentially, fitness was a huge catalyst for me. It was monstrous, and I was able to tap into that and anchor it to other things. And so for anyone out there, I would highly suggest finding an outlet for you, whatever works for you.
Yeah, no, it's great advice. And like I said, I've understood the power of having these anchors in my life, and I've utilized them. And I believe it also helps. And I think, excel us to that next lofty challenge. So I look at my business career and I use the anchors for my physical fitness. My 50th success at Spartan was just the next challenge on the list, right? But I knew from previous experiences I had the fortitude to go and do that. What's next for you? I mean, your marathon times are pretty amazing. Are you going to keep doing that, or you have other health fitness goals?
It's interesting. So I picked up boxing about 2 months ago just because I wanted to try something different. And I love to be a beginner.
Yeah.
It's humbling, it's exciting, and I really enjoyed it. But for me, if I'm being honest, running is where the magic happens. And I still to this day don't consider myself a runner. So my running friends get offended by that. It's just that when I started running, it was more about an outlet. It was an arena for me to be a gladiator, for me to really tap in, to dig deep. And I thought I was retired at the Chicago Marathon last October, where I ran the 3:31 that you attested to. Then all of a sudden, I signed up for the New York City half, which is about 2 weeks ago. I wasn't training like I typically do, but I felt light and free, and I ended up PRing again. And I ran that one really fast. So now I kind of got the bug. I got the itch. We'll see. I know there's a lot of room for improvement, believe it or not, from the 3:31 in Chicago. And I'm excited to see what I'm capable of. The only thing holding me back, I'm just being honest with you, is, I give my all to everything that I do, brother, whether it's brushing my teeth, running, CLS, my fiance, all the things. And when you want to run and compete at that level, it's like a full-time job for the training that goes into it, the nutrition, the recovery. And, I'm all in on my career right now, and it's really taken off, I say very humbly. So, short answer, I'll probably run a marathon later this fall and put myself out there. I just love it. I can't get enough of that stuff. I think it's so good for anyone, but specifically for me, to have things in the calendar that scare the you-know-what out of me and really force me to level up, because it's not so much the end result as it is who I become on the journey. So I always say I'm going to retire, and I always end up signing up for another one. I just think they're good for you. So yes, I imagine there'll be more in my not too distant future.
You just used a tool, or you mentioned a tool that you use, having something on the calendar to level up. That's something I've also used for a long time. That's why I did the Spartan racing, because there was always something on the calendar. By the way, I got a race in a month from now up here in Montana.
Hell yeah.
Where did you learn that tactic? Because, if you've got something on the calendar, you're going to, especially if you paid for it, right? And it doesn't matter what you paid for it. You just, hey, I got this thing there, because I think it's so important for people to learn that tool.
Yeah, where I got it from, my own experience, brother.
Yeah.
Because every time I would sign up for these marathons, my first thing was like, why did I do that? And now I got to do all the training and so forth. But then I start to train, and I start to make better choices, right? Going to bed a little bit earlier, waking up a little bit earlier, not really drinking, maybe once a week. It's just good, and it cultivates great habits. And I like the person I am when I'm training for those things. It also gives you confidence, makes you feel badass. So I learned, because every time I would have one in the calendar, and especially like right before, I would get these butterflies, but those are the good butterflies. Those are the butterflies you want to chase in life. I still get them before a big speaking engagement. It means that it's big. You respect the task at hand, and I like everything that goes into it. So I learned it from throwing myself in the arena and from my own personal experiences. And for anyone that's all your listeners that are listening to this right now, I would challenge you and suggest you try something of the sort.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, running special, I feel the same as you. I don't consider myself a runner. I said official marathon because I've only run one officially. I've beat that time in my training for the Spartan races, but it wasn't official. I want to talk about two more things before I let you go. And one is your coaching group. If you can tell us a little bit more about your coaching group, because I looked through your website and I love the things that you talk about. I was particularly interested in your book club. Now, on my website, I've got books that I suggest people to read that I've read that I enjoy. But I love that you're doing a book club. And by the way, when you click on that link, if you go to a site, it says this is a free book club. This is you tell it. But I was just like, wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We started the book club not too long ago. It was a monster success. We all just read the same book at the same time. We have a private group where we talk about it, we discuss it. We did private Zooms where everybody kind of just chimes in, takes notes and so forth. And the truth be told, I have so much going on in such a good way. It's so much abundance that we haven't done a book in a little bit. But we're about to. We're going to do our book, The Reinvention Formula, when it comes out in August. So I'm really excited about it. And the truth of the matter is I attract like-minded people, right? Because your vibe attracts your tribe, and we're all reading books anyway. So why not read it together? And in regards to the coaching program, we do a lot of things. We just launched an elite mastermind. We have live events. But I think what you're referring to is the CLS membership. Because I do so many other things, coaching and so forth. When I created this, I want it to be more of a no-brainer. So it's relatively inexpensive, all things considered. There's about 500 amazing individuals in there. We meet 3 Wednesdays a month. We go nuts on live calls, all things branding, entrepreneurship, mindset, and everything in between. And we bring on huge guest speakers too. And we have a private group and chat where everybody networks, supports each other. A lot of the big celebrity speakers will come in, they'll hit me up on the side and say, Craig, I've been in other groups before. I've never seen a community so supportive and selfless of each other. It's just a special vibe, and I take pride in that. So we're growing rapidly, but most importantly, the integrity is intact. It's the right type of people.
Yeah, I love that. Look, I'm in that world. You're in that world. It feels like there's a lot of groups, but there's a hell of a lot more people that need what these groups are offering. Are you seeing the same from your perspective? What's your take on kind of this movement of more groups to be involved with?
Yeah, I think that maybe the pandemic or the lockdown, it was such a dark time and a season for a lot of people that a lot of people were looking for inspiration. So I think people have now got on board, and maybe it's become a little trendy to be a part of something. But obviously, you want it to be the right people. You can't necessarily trust everybody. But I will say this: for those of you that are out there that want to level up, to upgrade your mindset, to get clarity, to have a support system, I think you should absolutely invest in yourself. Whether that means a coach one-on-one, a membership, a mastermind, a program, something where you're around good inspiration, good ideas, a different perspective. Iron sharpens iron. So I'm glad to see that people are gravitating towards that. Obviously, again, you want it to be the right ones, but I think it can only help as long as people are doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't know a single successful person that does not have a coach these days. Even the most successful people have coaches, right? So I love what you're doing with the group. Like I said, I went through your website. I think you offer a ton of value. I can't believe the price is what it is. Go to his website and check it out. I'll put it in the show notes when we get there. Craig, before we go, tell us about the book and what that's about and what to expect.
Yeah, so we signed a record first time author book deal with Wiley Publishing. They just end Mylett's book. Look, I've been sharpening the axe for 15 years, and I've been documenting in journals, emotional intelligence, NLP, law of attraction, Kabbalah, the historic figures, and everything in between. And then I reinvented myself in the pandemic, right? And I think a lot of people are looking to reinvent themselves right now. So as I like to say, even if you didn't like me, hard to imagine, I know. One thing you couldn't deny is that I'm an expert in reinvention. I had one life and one career for 13 years. I pivoted and had an enormous amount of success in a relatively short amount of time in a whole different industry. So I'm taking everything that I've been studying for 15 years that I applied to my reinvention with great success, and I put it into one vessel. But it's not just a book of principles like a lot of these self-help books that I've read in the past. It's my story. It's the lessons. It's the rock bottoms. And I extract them and I make them relatable. And I'm strange and I'm weird and I'm unique and all that's in there. And I can honestly say it's a hybrid. I've read a lot of books. It's something unique that I haven't quite seen. So I'm really excited for the world to see it or read it, I should say, or listen to it August 15th. But a pre-order is available now.
So again, I'll put the details in the show notes here, and I appreciate what you're doing. By the way, I saw some accolades from Ed Mylett on your website. What a great individual, to know or look up to or have in your life at one level or another, as well as David Meltzer. I have a personal question based on a personal experience. It really doesn't have much to do with what we're talking about, but I'm looking at the background in your window there. A city that I love so much, New York is where you're at. You're in Manhattan. I just got back from New Jersey just a couple days ago, and I'll never forget flying into Newark, New Jersey, and getting on the train to Manhattan after 9/11, and literally cried on that train, looking at that big hole in the sky where the Twin Towers were. And I know that New York's come back and reinvented itself, and I've had a lot of great times there. But my question is, What is New York like for you in your life right now, despite what we're hearing on the news in small town Montana? Does it still have some greatness, or are you guys concerned about the direction of the city? Again, it's a little bit of a personal question, but I just love that place so much. I hate to hear anything negative about it.
I will say this, during the pandemic, now that I don't have my own office on Wall Street and I'm an entrepreneur full time, essentially I could do this from anywhere. And I had some thoughts about possibly for the first time being able to move and do this from anywhere, so to speak. And I was traveling a lot for speaking over the last couple of years, but every time I go, I'm itching to get back.
Yeah.
New York City is a war zone, but as my fiance and I like to say, it's our war zone. And let me just be honest, like I was hit by a car last summer, hit and run.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I'm okay physically, thank God. Talk about divine intervention, but there weren't really any consequences for that, and it's scary to think the crime and I knew New York City was whatever, but I didn't realize that there wasn't that many consequences these days, and that's a scary thought. But look, New York City is a part of me. It's in my DNA. I love the energy. I think it's unmatched compared to anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
It's definitely back. There's obviously pros and cons, just like anywhere geographically. Pick your poison. I'm a New Yorker at the heart, and some way or the other, I will always have a place here, even if I branch out, and so to speak. So, if you're asking me personally, I love New York, despite some of its obstacles and so forth.
Yeah, I appreciate that honest answer. Hey, we all have our own little war zones. We contend with wild animals up here. We had a mountain lion in my yard last year, and we've got bear and all that other stuff around here. So just like you said, pick your battles. But in my mind, New York always wins in the end. I was there pre-Giuliani, then all those great years when the city was just running wild. Great years for me with Kettle One Vodka. It'll be back, and you'll still be there. So, Craig, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you saying yes to being on the show. I will say this to my listeners. Craig threw a lot our way, and you can get a lot through his website, a lot through his coaching group. One thing that I'm going to dig into with him in my studies and when the book comes out is the spiritual side, because I don't believe that we put enough stock into that. And I'm talking about what he mentioned about the meditation and the beliefs and the gratitude and all those things. Craig, I know you'll affirm that thought because it is so important, right?
Yeah, I've really quadrupled down on that specifically over the last couple of years. And that has been the difference that has really made the difference for me. It's more than just mindset. It's the spirituality. It's being available. It's the vibrational stuff. So you're going to get a lot of that in the book.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. Like I said, it'll be in the show notes. Craig, thanks for being here. We look forward to the book coming out in August.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate this.
Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.